We'll now turn the time over to Mr. Joseph Dockstader.
One-third of the Psalms are laments. Psalm 137 reads, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. There on the willows we hung our harps. For there our captors demanded of us a song. Our tormentors required songs of joy, saying, 'Sing us one of the songs of Zion.' How can we sing the songs of the Lord in a foreign land?" I presume they did not sing. The song simply was not there because the songs of God's people are more than performances. They embody our worship of Him, fulfilling the command to serve the Lord with gladness and come before His presence with singing. So connected are they to the joy of the Lord. The songs of Zion and the condition of Zion are mutually exclusive. They do not exist without each other. This song is the thread that weaves us to our story. It tells us who we are. It brings us before Him. Music is so much a part of man's profoundest utterances that religion must rely on music to bring belief to life. Creation sings. A firmament of angels heralded the birth of Christ. God Himself rejoices over us with singing. Each of God's perfected emotions is experienced to its fullest through song. When God's people are happy, they sing. When sad, they sing. When grieving, when hopeful, when grateful, when determined, when burdened, when blessed, God's people sing. He gave us voices, but we make them sing. The songs of Zion emerged as a central theme of the church in its beginning year. Speaking to Emma, the Lord said, "Make a selection of sacred hymns, for my soul delighteth in the song of the heart. Yea, the song of the righteous is a prayer unto me, and it shall be answered with a blessing upon their heads. Wherefore, lift up thy heart and rejoice, and cleave unto the covenants which thou hast made." Emphasizing the song of the heart, the revelation paralleled singing to praying. As with ancient Israel, these songs would be the soundtrack of Zion. Their sentiments would garnish the hearts and minds of the saints as they built Kirtland, Far West, Nauvoo, and Deseret. Alexander Campbell, from whose Disciples of Christ Church many Mormons had been converted, wrote that a hymn book was as good an index into the hearts and minds and brains of a people as the Creed book. The Mormon hymn book provided an eloquent example, surveying in its lyrics the breadth of expanding Mormon doctrine. "Know this, that every soul is free," was selected as the opening hymn of the book. It was a powerful assertion to the saints' right to believe as they pleased in the face of persecution. The collection, printed and reprinted at devastating financial cost, contained 6 each of morning and evening hymns for family worship. That is one for each day of the week except for church days. The selection therefore demonstrates at least one salient fact. Mormons were to incorporate sacred worship as part of the everyday motions of living. It was to bring the sacred into their homes as a constant practice. With these hymns, the saints had an additional tool to perfect the commandment, "Rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything, give thanks." One of the last acts of the Nauvoo citizenry was to build a music hall near the temple. Joseph the prophet often objected to the burden that open-air preaching constantly placed on him. The music hall was built, but it served the choir for less than a year. In the thaw of 1846, the saints loaded wagons to push westward, singing William Clayton's newly written, "Come, Come Ye Saints." Within a week of entering the Salt Lake Valley, the first company of pioneers chose a site for a new temple and built on it a bowery of heavy timber posts and branches. Before a crowd of several hundred in August 1847, a small choir sang for the first conference in Deseret. In the opening prayer of the 1852 conference, in which the church was to adopt celestial marriage as a tenet, Brigham Young prayed, "Bless those that sing. Bless him that plays the organ and all that assist in singing. Inspire them to seek the power of thy Holy Spirit, that we may be inspired from on high, that we may speak thereby, hear thereby, sing thereby, that we may be perfected thereby. God gave us voices, but we make them sing." If we could peek behind the heavenly veil, we would be consumed by the music. "Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath it entered into the heart of man to conceive of those things which are prepared for them that fear God." Sublime music has passed the tests of time and been cherished always by the noble. A failure to appreciate and utilize it is not a condemnation of the song. The omission is within. If we grow up on a diet of junk food, we're not likely to become a gourmet. And some of us have grown up on something less. Some of us consume a steady diet of musical French fries. And it matters to the health of our soul. "There is no music in hell," said Brigham Young, "for all good music belongs to heaven. Every sweet musical sound that can be made belongs to the saints." Joseph Smith established this idea to an even further point. Wilford Woodruff retold that the prophet said there would be no musicians or singing in hell. Consequently, they must all go to heaven. While I read a note of humor in Brother Woodruff's story, I marvel at its implications, and I wonder how I also might be redeemed by singing the song of the righteous. As there is something in us that responds to the powerful propaganda of music, we must manage how we open ourselves to its power. Our brains crave musical elements. Storing and retrieving musical information involves activating a vast network within the brain, says Dr. Stephen Herf. Once you have formed a memory trace for a musical excerpt, the memory is stable and much more resilient to forgetting. The parts of the brain which influence our emotions and generate expectations, as well as the pleasure and reward system, are used when we learn and listen to music. This indicates why music is a powerful learning tool for children. Hymn music especially subscribes to several elements and qualities that make it a Goldilocks sweet spot of melody. And it makes it easier for us to remember than other kinds of music. We must be able to form predictions, but also we crave novelty. By fulfilling our craving for prediction and excitement, hymns feed our pleasure and reward system. They trigger a feel-good response. They passively motivate us to repeat the experience, and they will often play on a repeat loop in our mind. Musical memories that involve spending time with family and friends, such as the songs that we learn and listen to and sing in our homes and schools, are particularly stable. These memories are meaningful, and the memory system has preferential treatment for them. Emotions play a tremendous role in making musical memories. Songs from our younger years when we are emotionally impressionable trigger a strong sense of nostalgia. I first wanted to learn music and sing with my family while doing dishes as a child. The kingdom rises on the song of the righteous. History bears out how the prophet restored music as a vital part of the gospel and Zion. Although his wife Emma was a capable singer, Joseph also called upon the young brothers, Brigham and Joseph, the Hancock brothers, Levi and Solomon, and the father-daughter duo, Titus and Eunice Billings, to sing for him when he was melancholic. He was particularly drawn to the soprano voice of Bishop Noel Whitney's wife, Elizabeth Ann, whom he called the songstress of Zion. When she sang, he would sit spellbound, so absorbed as to forget his sorrows. She was one of the first of this dispensation to exercise the gift of tongues. The prophet promised Elizabeth Ann that if she would never leave the faith, God would give her the ability to sing in the pure language of Adam. She exercised this gift always through song until her death, the last event being her 81st birthday in Salt Lake. At a meeting in the Kirtland Temple for Patriarchal Blessings, Sister Whitney sang in tongues, the result being a beautiful hymn chronicling the dispensation of the priesthood from Adam to the latter days. God gave us voices, but we make them sing. For the strength of your faith, to delight the heart of God, edit your music library. Choose only that which uplifts and inspires, that rejoices, that keeps your covenants. It's part of the maturing process of your eternal journey. We often lament that Babylon presses in on us, especially with our ready access to technology. And while it is true that the vilest evils reside right at our fingertips, it is also true that we can access more light and truth, that we have more time to consume godliness than any of God's children in any age. We need the shield of holy music to guard us from criticism, temptation, depression, and all the other evils of Babylon. The song of the righteous can bolster a faith that will rise to the challenge of your life. At the age of 12, Evan Stevens crossed the ocean, walked across the plains, and settled in Utah. Evan attended his first choir rehearsal without understanding how to play or read music. The choir sang from some expensive anthem books, and Evan dared to ask to take one home. At first, he was most emphatically refused, but after much pleading from Evan, the choir leader relented, and young Evan had the book for a night. From that one book, from that one night, he learned the meaning of key signatures, time signatures, note values, the staves, the marks of expression. Rising rapidly in the world of music, Brother Stevens eventually became an outstanding conductor of the Tabernacle Choir, and perhaps the most prolific composer the church has ever had, having over 80 hymns in the hymnal at one time. On one occasion, he attended a meeting where President Joseph F. Smith spoke directly to the youth of Zion. Would they carry the torch forward, or would they let it falter? At the close of the service, Brother Stevens strolled alone up City Creek Canyon, considering the words of President Smith to the youth. Sitting by the banks of a stream, he observed how the rock he was resting on remained firm despite the pressure of rushing water. As they came rapidly to his mind, he wrote the words of the stirring song, True to the Faith. Reeling off a few staves of music on a piece of paper, he composed the music. On the original copy of the song was written, lovingly dedicated to my 20,000 pupils of Zion. God gave us voices, but we make them sing. The songs of Zion delight the Lord and help us cleave to the covenants that we have made. We do not mourn the covenants that tie us to God, only the things that keep us from Zion. While the ancients lamented, "How can we sing the songs of the Lord in a foreign land?" We are Latter-day Saints. We already bid Babylon farewell. When we fled Kirtland, Missouri. In Carthage, we sang "A Poor Wayfaring Man." We bid Babylon farewell in 1846. We sang "Come, Come, Ye Saints." In 1886, when we preserved the fullness of Joseph Smith's restoration, we sang "The Seer." We bid Babylon farewell again in 1960, gathering back from the raid. We sang "Let the Mountains Shout for Joy." "I Know That My Redeemer Lives" was the song on repeat in President Timpson's mind in 1983. We bid Babylon farewell when we chose priesthood over politics. We leave Babylon during every O Holy Night, every "Worthy is the Lamb," each time we sing "Love One Another" or "Hosanna." Each time we sing and magnify the song of the righteous within us, we leave Babylon and pioneer our path in the kingdom. The blessing answered on our heads is that Zion lives within us, within our homes, within our community. We become the Zion of the last days. Beautiful, hailed as the place to gather with songs of everlasting joy. Sing the songs of the kingdom. Choose the music of Zion rather than sorrow in a foreign land. Our songs shape us. God gave us voices, and so we must sing. Thank you.
Well, I hope you had a good time today.
I did.
Hope you got your devotional, your spiritual feeding for today.
Does this give you more meaning to hear the presentation and see the scripture?
Yes. I was reminiscing a little bit while Joseph was talking about my experiences. When did I first learn hymns? And I remembered that when I was in college, I got invited over to the Mormon Institute one semester for choir practice. And so that's what we did for lunch. So we just went over from 12 to 1 and we sung hymns for lunch. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that part of my experience there.
The detail for time, but the prophet Father Smith was at one point a music teacher. Actually taught how to read notes, the music system, and was the leader of music in their home. His brother William reported that it was Father Smith that taught.
We are adjusting the format of devotional just a little bit for fun. And I noticed in the atrium, you'll see next week's presenters. So you can read those names and their scripture prompt, and so we can look forward to next week too. So with that, we can go to class.